students. Hello, a very good day to you all. My name is Mrs. Omogiade Christabel of the Department of Medical Laboratory Science, Chemical Pathology Specialty. By the special grace of God, I'm going to be taking you on IUO MLS 103, titled Biorisk Management. So IUO MLS 103, titled Medical Laboratory Biorisk Management. So from the topic, before we start, we are going to be looking at what a biorisk is. When we say biorisk management, what does it mean? Now, it's a process by which labs, laboratories, and facilities they combine safety and security measures to be able to control or minimize risk that is associated with the handling, storage, and disposal of biological agents and toxins. Of course, you know that in the laboratory, I know you people are just starting, but with time you will understand. So in the lab, a lot of risks are being encountered. So one of those risks is biorisk, biological risk, risk in handling things. So handle samples, so handle reagents, we're exposed to a lot of biological risk. Yes. So that is why we're looking at what biorisk management is, which we said is a process by which laboratories and facilities they combine safety and security to control or minimize risks that are associated with the handling, storage, and disposal of biological agents and toxins. So this biorisk management approach, it involves two main aspects. We have the one we call the biosafety, and we have the second one, the biosecurity. Now, what is biosafety? Biosafety focuses on keeping people, animals, and the environment safe from germs and diseases. Of course, when we are working in the lab, we work we work on benches, we work with samples, etc. So biosafety helps to it focuses on keeping these people, keeping animals and the environment we are working safe from germs and diseases. While biosecurity focuses on preventing theft or misuse of dangerous materials. People can steal things from the lab and not knowing that those things are highly dangerous and contagious. And if those things are allowed to just go out like that, anything can happen. So it is a performance-based holistic risk management system that emphasizes roles and responsibilities for everyone in an organization. So everybody has its own role to play. Now, why is biorisk management needed? It is a biorisk management framework is needed because it addresses assessment and mitigation of risk. We assess the risk and how it can be controlled. Okay, and ensures the continuous evaluation of control measures. Now, this approach helps organizations to enhance safety and security, reducing the number and severity of accidents in laboratories. We don't want a situation whereby somebody is coming to work in the lab and every day we are seeing different form of accidents. Somebody pricking themselves, you see spillage of samples, you see spillage of reagents and the rest. Some reagents are hazardous. So it will not be so good when people are being exposed to such risks. So try to see how those risks can be minimized. So organizations are encouraged to adopt a bio-risk management system approach when addressing biosafety and biosecurity in their laboratories. Okay, so we're going to be looking at an approach that is known as AMP, capital letter AMP. The A there means assessment, the M means mitigation, and the P means performance. So this model consists of three critical elements, like I've said: assessment, mitigation, and performance, collectively called the AMP model. AMP model, take note. So in this model, the control measure is based on a comprehensive risk assessment, and its performance is what continually evaluated. We want to look at the assessment of risk in the lab. First of all, we identify hazards. That's why if you go to the medical laboratory, see that everything is well labeled. We don't take chances. Yes, everything is well labeled. So identify hazards and evaluate the risk associated with working in a laboratory. That's the first assessment. Two, check the safety measures. check the safety measures already in place and decide if the risks are acceptable. So, of course, for example, you are working in the lab, if the risk is unacceptable, if it's just way too much, there is no need working there, because you can't be working for people and at the end of the day you go home with things you don't expect and person becomes sick or person dies because of exposure to biohazards. So that is why we said the second one is to check the safety measures already in place and decide if the risks are acceptable. 3, share responsibility between principal investigators, scientists, researchers, or a risk assessment team, security professionals, and biosafety professionals. 4, we perform assessments when there are new tasks or significant changes in how things are done. Yes, so when there are changes in how things are done, everything has to be checked. So we perform assessments when there are new tasks, yes, or when there's significant changes in how things are done. Okay, I think we mentioned 4. 5, regularly review laboratory risk at least once a year. Regularly review laboratory risk at least once a year. 6, and the last, use the results to choose the proper control measures to reduce risk as needed. So those are the assessment of risk. So you look at the risk. What are the kind of risk that one we face in the laboratory? So we should identify the risk first of all and see if we have measures to help curtail such risk for the safety of the staffs, the laboratory staffs there. Then the second one, we told us about 3 approaches under the AMP. We talked about assessments, we have done that. Now, mitigation strategy. Number 1, under mitigation strategies, implement control. Okay, so implement control measures to eliminate or reduce the hazard that is identified during risk assessment. So I told us under your risk assessment, one of the things we identify the hazard. So after identifying the hazard, what do we do next? We implement control measures to eliminate or reduce the hazard identified during risk assessment. 2, base measures on robust risk assessments instead of predetermined conditions. 3, eliminate hazards as the most effective control now to reduce risk. However, this may not be a feasible option in many cases to perform the intended work. 4, reduce risk through other control measures such as 1, engineering controls that reduce or prevent exposure to hazards. So you do things that will help to prevent exposure. Like we have what we call biosafety cabinets, like those in medical microbiology. There's something called an inoculating hood. Yes, it's called an inoculating hood or a biosafety cabinet. It helps to reduce risk, biological risk in the laboratory. So still under the 4th mitigation strategy, which is reduce risk through other control measures. We have said 1 now, by engineering controls that reduce or prevent exposure to hazards. 2, administrative controls such as policies and guidelines used to control risk. When we have standard operating procedures, written standard operating procedures, procedure for one to follow in the lab. Yes, in order for the analysis or work to be done properly. Okay. Now, personal protective equipment being worn by workers to protect them against laboratory hazards like the gloves, hand gloves, and the laboratory gowns. Some persons have now made their own to be laboratory suits. No. So we don't wear, I mean, we are in 100 level now, yes. So the earlier we do this, better for us, so that before we will get to the time when we need to start having our laboratory coats, we should understand what we are doing. You don't just go and sew a suit. You know what a suit means. You sew something that is fitted. No. It's supposed to be a laboratory gown or a laboratory coat, so that when you put it on, it should cover you to some extent. Okay. So under our risk assessment also, we have recognized that no single mitigation control measure is completely effective at reducing all risk. Then combine controls for optimal risk mitigation. All interested parties must consider organizational strength, resources, commitment, personnel knowledge, and staff competency levels to ensure the appropriate implementation of mitigation measures. So in our next class, we will treat the 3rd approach, which is performance evaluation. We told us of AMP, assessment, mitigation, and performance evaluation. So we'll be looking at performance evaluation in our next class. See you in my next class. Bye.